Hey coaches, before we get started, check this out. Whether you're at the top or grassroots trying to juggle work, life, and soccer, here's a little help from Soccer Coach Weekly with ready-to-go drills that have been trusted since 2006. Here's the deal though. Soccer Dad Pod listeners, you will get 50% off a full year of premium access. So go to the Soccer Coach Weekly link in the show notes and use code SDP50. That's SDP50 for 50% off your premium subscription. Plan, fast, coach, smart. Now, let's go. Soccer Dad Pod, it's that time. New episode coming your way right now, literally this second that you're listening. Imagine that. Sometimes I say the stupidest shit, like, seems cool in the moment, but then it's really obvious when I think about
That's what they mean by off the cuff.
Yeah,
not pre-planned.
Apparently I should study my own lack of skills, maybe is how I put it. We're back, though. Soccer Dad Pod. Got a new episode today. You've read your dashboard. You've seen the names, maybe a little bit of the subject matter. It's going to be a fun one today because we're going to be jumping around from the state of the union recruiting-wise, what's going on in this portal gap. We're going to be talking about agents and NIL and money and probably some other off-the-cuff items. And joining me today, I'm not going to call them guests. I'm going to call them, like, co-guests, like mashup of co-host / guest, because both of you guys are returning players to the pod game, to the Soccer Dad Pod game. Droz, what is this, number 3 for you? Yeah, it's third time.
4.
Ooh, you're 4.
I was early when you boys were. What was the microbrew you guys were at?
The Well-Being.
Yes,
I think
was Solo there, and then you got Beasley.
Yeah,
and Cameron.
That's right. So you're a 4-bagger.
Yeah, going for the Grand Slam.
Dang. And then also joining us is Mr. Tony Doellefeld, previously of South City, South County fame, but sold his soul to the devil and is now down. I'm going to call him Tampa Tony from now on.
There you go.
Tony Doellefeld, man, from Prospect to Player. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, JB. Thanks for having me again.
How's Florida treating you, by the way?
It's been pretty good. Yeah, it's no complaints. It's been nice getting a rhythm out down there. So yeah, it's been good. Change of speed. So
there's quite a few 314 faces down there in the marketplace. That the OGs, the Perry Vanderbecks of the world, and Jeremy Allenbaugh. He's down there.
Really?
Yeah, he's running that. He's the El Presidente of USL in Tampa, and there's a lot more.
How long you been down in Tampa?
July 26th was the start of my lease, so
hello,
really recent. Yeah, it's been good. Nice
out
area.
Of the heat now.
It's nice. I think it's nice to be back now for the fall. You don't really get that there, so it's been good experience that. But yeah, it's been good weather and good experience so far. So.
Are you fishing much? Because we do talk about fishing a lot on this show.
Oh,
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't really. I haven't done too much.
We got to work on that. We'll get you one of those Dexter center consoles, just for all the right reasons, though. You know. So today's episode, I already gave you a little hint as to what we're going to be talking about. Want to come in and do a quick recap of what we've been doing. The previous episode, if you didn't listen to it, go check it out. If you're a St. Louis soccer fan and you grew up or enjoyed it as an adult, St. Louis soccer in the late 70s, 80s in particular, Droz, what was going on in the 80s in St. Louis soccer?
You were trying to get a ticket to the national team game out here at Soccer Park.
But what was
and you were watched, was it the Marlboro Cup?
What was going on down at the Checker Dome? Come on, man.
Okay. No disrespect, sorry. Major indoor soccer league.
The
Orange Ball.
The Orange Balls. So the Steamers. Steamers were the hottest thing, not only in St. Louis when it came to soccer at that point. There was a little bit of a gap in between what was going on. NASL was struggling. MISL was picking up.
Oh, yeah.
I
think at the time, were the Steamers outdrawing the Blues?
They were outdrawing every NHL team.
Yeah. I was a kid there. It was sold out, standing room only.
Yeah, I think the 1 year was average of 19,000, something like that. Indoor soccer. And there were names such as Carl Rose and Steve Petcher and Don Ebert and Slobo. Who can forget Slobo, right?
Don't forget about the Pocket Rocket. Tony Glavin. And previous episode was the one and only. If you might be able to catch a fish, but you can't catch a Tory. Oh, boy. You've been working on that one for a while, yeah?
I was. And he recently has retired. And so when we caught up, he's like, I got time now. Because he was very dedicated and to his Whitfield school, his teams over there. Jeff Cacciatore grew up on the Hill. Was also a junior bill. He went to SLU High. And he was one of those guys in the 70s, mid-late 70s, that didn't go to SLU. He went across the river. He was part of some amazing SIUE teams. And what I didn't know is he followed his brothers over there. Like his two older brothers both played there too, did really, really well, including a national championship. So
not bad.
And then standing at his peak, 5'5", proceeded to get drafted and played alongside Gerd Mueller in Tampa. In the NASL, and just an incredible story. Talked about being lucky and having a Dutch coach come in his first year. Mm-hmm. And at that time, Dutch soccer was total football, right? So, you're up, you're back, touching, moving, the original tiki-taka, right?
Sure.
And it fit him perfectly, given his stature and skill sets and, stars aligned. Left the league, came to MISL, and was a steamer. And as you well know, you were there. I was there.
No doubt.
The rest is history. An absolute legend. Just class act. So
was he good interview? Good guy to talk to.
Yeah, it was awesome. Because he was, he had the stories. And was really open about his pathway and the how he viewed himself. Just, because in today's world, we talk about profile, right? Player profile is one of these ridiculous terms, and I get it, because there's so many players, and a lot of coaches, depending on the position, depending on the school, they're going to say, okay, before I look at anybody, I'm looking for a profile, right? If you're going to be a center back, you got to be 6'2", and, one's got to be right-footed, the other one's got to be left-footed, and you got to be this, speed, et cetera. And Jeff was one of those guys at 5'5", was like, in the pre-quote profile days, he stood out. So go check it out. It was an awesome conversation.
Good.
Lot of news in the soccer world here. Let's go through a couple points of the day. I'll start off, give you guys a little lead time to come up with number 2 and 3 here. Social media is blowing up in regards to America's favorite captain, Mr. Pulisic. Had a pretty good weekend with that Italian squad of his. 2 goals, I believe. An assist, 2 goals, something like that. And of course, here come all the pundits, arguing, is he one of the top 20 players in the world right now? That was one of the tweets I read. My initial reaction was somebody was drinking because we as Americans and American writers in particular, I think we all would love it to be true, but I'm not seeing it. Droz, 2 cents, because you watch a lot of soccer, a lot of professional soccer across the pond and domestically.
For me, obviously I think he's a top player. Is he a top 20 player?
In the world.
In the world. That's a pretty bold statement.
Would you say he's the top U.S. player? Forget about putting him in the top 20 in the world, but
he's got to be up there in the conversation.
I agree.
He's got to be up there in the conversation, but I think you can't, discount some of the guys that are playing next to him, right, on the national team.
Like Robinson or Tyler Adams looks really good lately.
Yeah. Look what you just named. You named guys in different positions.
That's what I'm saying. On the team.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Okay, there's the unsung hero, the guys that keep the ball out of the net that don't get as much respect as the guys that put the ball in the net. What I was going to say is, and this is just no disrespect intended, it feels like sometimes
as a general statement, the media wants to find the story to say. And in the United States, we retire jersey numbers. Nowhere else in the world do we do that. So we put everybody up on a pedestal. So if you're in the American media, do you want to say he's one of the best players in the world? Because that is that bombastic effect that you want to get people to grab onto your article or read about. Does that make sense? Like, I don't respect Pulisic, but like, do we get that much analysis anywhere else in the world?
Yeah.
Top 20 in the world? Or, hey, he's a top player at his position.
Yeah. To your point, I think we start to get in the weeds. Tony, what, just toss it to you, because obviously there's a lot of good players in the world right now. And what really is amazing to me is when you look at really the top 3, 4, 5 that are doing special things, they are puppies. Like Yamal, right? We're talking 17, 18, 19-year-olds.
And they just did the Balloon d'Or today, did they not?
Dembele, right?
Yeah. And the puppy was in there.
Right? I know. Thoughts on Pulisic real quick?
Yeah, no, I like Pulisic. I think he's maybe a little bit younger, but I say he's the best U.S. player ever, but I don't know if that's...
Ooh, man.
I like that call out. Let's go.
I like him. I know
Put your flag in the sand and go.
I know he got criticism like this summer going into the Gold Cup. I think could have been handled better with everybody involved, but I like him. I think he changes the game. I think he impacts the game. He's quick, goals, assists, and he's showing it in Europe.
Well, let's connect the two dots on what you just pointed out. I mean, he took a lot of heat for missing and, quote, resting, and now here he is performing.
Yeah.
In order for him to obtain and maintain that status that you're pointing out, doesn't he need to really not rest?
Yeah. No, it was interesting this summer. I don't know where I land on all of that, but I like him. I think he's fun to watch.
Can I pipe in on that one?
Yeah, dude.
Seeing these guys firsthand, I absolutely respect the decision to take a rest. Having said that, when your national team comes calling for a major event,
right?
Plan the schedule out. And I know some of the people in and around his life, and they do a bang up job, and they do all what they absolutely can. The demands on the schedule. I mean, we could have a whole episode which we dove into on this schedule. If you look at what he did competitively for the national team plus club.
Yeah.
When do you get that break?
I know.
And then, you go back, remember Landon Donovan took a whole bunch of heat when he did this, right?
Criticizing him, remember? And
right. So, but if you look at the calendar, the competitions are so long and there's so many of them, and then you have a World Cup coming up, right? So look at the competitive calendar starting in 2022 when that World Cup got thrown in the wintertime, right? You maybe had a break, and maybe I got to look at the calendar, but of a month?
No.
Yeah.
So when do you take that rest, and how many knocks do you take?
It's definitely a catch-22. I mean, because look, we can dumb this down, kind of the theme in which you're talking about, all the way down to the youth level.
Yeah.
I mean, every one of our houses are dealing with it, where there's a meme little reel video going around that's a ha-ha video where this mom's laying on the couch, just wiped out. And she's like, so baseball has a season, basketball has a season, football has a season, but soccer is fucking year-round?
Yeah. Right.
And there's a lot of truth to it, and I think that to each of your points, look, the guy's a grinder. He's an incredible player. Top 20 in the world? I don't know. That's a stretch. Best ever in the U.S.? I don't know. There's a lot of people that would debate that.
Right.
I mean, we could debate that for an episode.
But
I mean, I'm with him on it to an extent, but there's a few guys that throw out there.
For the purposes of our big tournament next year that a few have heard of, we need him at his top.
Absolutely. Especially when we're hosting.
All right, enough Pulisic. What you got, man? What's going on in the sport/soccer world that stands out for you?
I mean, it's part of what you've talked about on episode after episode, and that's the pathway. I mean, I think I told you guys this off air, like just in the last week to 10 days, you got a lot of families trying to figure out what's best for their son, right? Here at the club, you got families that opted not to play MLS Next so they could play high school because that's where they wanted to go. Guys at MLS are, am I going to make it next year, or am I going to get cut because they don't have my age group? Some of the younger guys, am I getting called into U.S. national team camps? I think there's at least two 2010 year of birth that have signed with agents already. Right? 2010. So I think one's 14 and one's 15, and the 14-year-old's about to be 15.
Are we just going to call these kids like eduites? like Freddie Adu,
Yeah, but I think
I did
the
there?
good. Yeah, I did. That was clever. I like that. But I think with like Freddie, there was a whole marketing.
Acolytes,
right?
Aduites.
I like it in the sense that they're doing this, but they're doing it behind the scenes, and they're just going to try to build something slowly, consistently. Whereas poor Freddie was thrown out there and Sprite commercials and everything else like that, and the poor guy. Like if you're not going to perform, and you've been in front of all these cameras and all these people, it's a bigger failure. But if you slowly, consistently move your way up, you know what I'm saying? Like, I always try to tell parents, all you want to do, some parents, like, they want their kid on the next highest level team, right? Then you're on the highest level team, and the parents are like, wait a second, this isn't all glamour. This is a grind. This is a work. My kid's coming off the bench playing 30 minutes, or my kid's getting 15 minutes, or my kid's got to beat somebody out. And then when you beat that kid out and start, then you got to work your you-know-what off because you got to keep it. So I watch these kids this time of the year. Do they go to high school? Do they go to college? Do they sign with an agent? Do they not sign with an agent? And then sometimes when a kid has some significant success, he gets thrown into the pool of there's agents there telling him one thing, there's coaches telling him one thing, his parents just want to get him educated, or do we forego education? And I mean, you've heard it. I'm sure you both of you have heard it. Like, do you go to school, or do you do something online and go to school, or do you just do it online, or do you forego it? Over the last probably month to 2 months, there's been a lot of conversations with families both here in St. Louis and across the country as to what's best for their son.
Yeah, I mean, it's really,
and daughter for that.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to dig into that a little bit, because one of the things that I want to talk about after the break within our conversation is this whole concept that parents, in particular, when they put their kids into a club, and especially a competitive club, and they get into an elevated league, that by default, the majority of them, whether they admit it or not, what they're really doing is they're paying, and there's a certain amount of expectation from an ROI standpoint, specifically college, right?
Right.
But now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was really simple. Okay, you play, you go to a club, you do well, you play for your high school, you win a state title, you do all these things. You just kind of, okay, where do I fit within college soccer? And for the most part, if you want to play, you're going to go play, right? And that was your money. But what we're going to talk about is now the agent aspect, the NIL aspect, the role gap year plays, and how you manage, maybe an accredited but don't burn your eligibility environment in which you just train for a year, and all this shit, because everybody's looking at. I think we jumped the shark. Is it for the kid to have fun and get an education and or just be competitive and be a kid, right? Or is it, how do I guarantee my money back? I mean, is this not your daily endeavor?
Day to day, yeah. That's all day what we're talking about, yeah.
Soccer news, anything popping up in your head? What you've been watching lately? What are you...
Yeah, it's just college soccer, I would say, and non-conference, pretty much.
How many games a night do you watch?
My girlfriend would give you what I do all day, every day. But, starting the conference play, I think, is exciting time now, right, especially most schools.
How surprised are you at the kind of, we briefly touched on it before we jumped on the mics, how surprised are you by the parity out of the gate this year?
Yeah.
Because every now and then you'll see a usual suspect, a blue chip school that's ranked number one, be it Indiana or Wake or whatever. The next thing you know, they drop points, or like the other day, Wake, Virginia, who wasn't ranked, drops 6 on them and win 6-3. And then out of the blue, you get a Gardner-Webb win over I forgot what, maybe Duke or something like that. And then you had that San Antonio school that beat SMU.
Yeah.
Are you seeing, because you've been watching college soccer now for a number of years, are you surprised by the amount of by the level of competition from schools that you would not have expected at this point?
Yeah, I don't know, surprise. I think the coolest thing is how quickly some of these programs can shift, go from kind of the bottom rankings to top 25. I mean, it's pretty, you get a new coach, and you guys know how quickly it can change. New recruiting class, now a few transfers, and you're a completely different roster. And, so, I've seen it, last couple of years. But, no, I think the transfers and, you get a good coach that, now you see some guys go from D2 and they have immediate success in Division I. And I think that's pretty cool to see. Just, if you can win college soccer, it shows you how strong all the levels are. And, if you're competing, FGCU, was Division II coach, and now he's, winning. I think they got 5-6 wins already. And that was a program that hadn't had that many wins last year. So it's pretty cool to see, just how quickly it can change. And
how about real quick game point out the other day? Actually, one of your clients, Grady Lewis, right, signs with Wilmington, UNC Wilmington, and last week
3-3 tie.
3-3 tie against number 1 Wake Forest.
There you go.
To kind of prove the point.
Yeah.
So it's just the landscape is chaos right now.
It's a good thing. It keeps people interested.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think and this is what we're going to talk about after the break. Is what we're seeing, is this in fact a benefit for more, frankly, domestic players? That where a Clemson was out. Unless you're national team pool, it's kind of out of the question in most cases. Are we going to see some more opportunities opening up, because now the demand for the atypical schools or the not as popular schools is elevating? Would you agree, disagree?
That's where we tell all of our clients there's so many good opportunities everywhere, and it just, what fits for you, and what fit for you could be might not be Clemson, it could be a better fit, and it might be a better opportunity. And now you're competing against Clemson, and you're having a good fit. So we tell all of our guys there's so many, competition, all 200 Division I teams, everybody. It's hard to score goals. It's hard to beat. Everybody's can be good any day. So it's find your best fit and enjoy it from there.
I love it. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We're out here at Soccer Park. Thanks, Soccer Park, for hosting yet again. We're going to get some refills, and when we come back, we're going to be talking Pathway, NIL, some money, and some other news. Thanks for listening. Send it to a friend. That would be tremendous, and it's free. When we come back, more soccer. See you on the flip side. Hey, coaches, do you need new drills, some more structure, a little help preparing for the evening because, work, life, and stuff? Here's a little help from Soccer Coach Weekly with ready-to-go drills and practice plans that have been trusted since 2006. And here's the deal. Soccer Dad Pod listeners, you will get 50% off a full year of premium access. So go to the Soccer Coach Weekly link in the show notes and use code SDP50. That's SDP50 for 50% off. Plan fast, coach smart. Get your time back, and let's go. All right, we're back. Soccer Dad Pod, second half. Music theme of the day. I was in an 80s mood today.
Clearly. But I like it. It's all right.
You like this, right?
The young buck next to you probably has no idea.
He was not. I don't even think he was a zygote at that point. I'm doing the math. Yeah, no.
No.
Your
equipment almost got trashed as I almost spit out my
so, coming in with the Smiths and Joy Division all at once, man. It's it felt like that kind of a day. A little bit of a transitional day, a little throwback. Anyway, we have been teeing it up here for the second half. I wanted to make sure and kind of lean into both of you two gentlemen, your sweet spots, your day jobs, so to speak. And I want to lead it off kind of with you, Tony, because we talked about college soccer just from a TV perspective, competitions, and what's going on with the kind of a rotational nature of who's hot, right? Mm-hmm. And it's including, the usual suspects and a whole bunch of new suspects. You have been, running your firm now for 5 years. what's the client count roughly? 100, a little more. Where are you?
100 recruiting class now, probably over 400 players that we've placed in total.
Nice.
Yeah, around 100 players a class.
So can you take a second and just kind of give us a State of the Union? Not necessarily about the business as a whole or specifically, but really more, excuse me, generically, who are you seeing? Where are you seeing the majority of kids, that are inquiring for service? Where are they coming from? And then on the other end of that, that triangle between player, family, yourself, and the schools, what are you seeing in the school market as far as activity goes? Mm-hmm. Or is this a lull time given that we're in the fall and everybody's in season?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, just overarching thing, it's like there's never been like a time where everything is like they talk about a thing and then they vote on it and it's like enacted in the NCAA specifically. And like it used to take, when I was playing, it would like you'd vote on it, you'd hear about it, and then you wouldn't really hear about it for 5 years, and then it never really went anywhere. Now it's like you hear about all this NIL and portal and all these different things, and all of a sudden it gets voted on that 2 months later and it's enacted the next year. So just
you talking about like the roster limit changes?
Yeah, roster that was like a thing. Not even a year ago, and that was voted on that same 6 months. It seemed like it was, and then there's pushback, and then there's it just feels like just so accelerated. I don't know if because it's football and basketball, all this money involved now.
There you go. I think that's what there's money involved.
So it used to be
how hard is it to keep up with the because you have clients, excuse me, Gizo, that have signed with you or are working with you as early as their sophomore year of high school. Mm-hmm. So they are a year from really being looked at, 2 years from probably serious conversations, and then 3 years away from preseason, mm-hmm. For college.
Right.
How are you managing that conversation or that mm-hmm. process with rule changes that are being implemented in real time? For example, the roster limits. A year ago, there were some of these schools that you worked with that would have 35, 38, 40 plus kids on a roster. Now, boom, 28. Everybody. Right. How has that affected the process?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to be transparent. I think the coaches don't even know half the time what's coming down the pipeline, what they need to be prepared for. Some of these administrations don't give them too much preparation. So it's just, coaches are always recruiting. You guys know they're always looking. They're always, shortlisting guys. I think what it's done overall is kind of pushed everything back a little bit. I think whereas kind of when I was going through it, even probably before me, like your junior year, if you weren't committed in high school, it was like you're kind of late, and I think on the girls' side, so they always say it's kind of like a year, year and a half more accelerated. So mm-hmm. even sophomore. But now what I'm seeing is everything's just kind of pushed back because there's always been international players, but an influx of international players that think this is a good pathway for them to develop and grow. And coaches, if you can get a 20-year-old with 4 years of eligibility, you're going to at least entertain that. Now you have the, transfer portal, so you want to see what you can get, in November through December.
Well, coaches have the ability to wait.
You can wait. Exactly what I'm getting at, and got kids that are on, MLS 2 teams, yep. Are they going to get a first-team deal? You're talking off air, or now it's sometimes the NIL money, you can have comparable money, whether a 2-team deal, with the MLS option or NIL at a big school, what would be better? Sometimes it is a legitimate question. So coaches are waiting, I see, and it's just, yeah.
So, Greg, the majority of your career has been spent above the collegiate level. Obviously, your clients, they get paid big bucks, and you guys manage that whole process for the most part, right?
Correct. Yep.
But you've been around the game your whole life. Your prospects are getting younger and younger because that's the game too. You got to find these kids young. When you hear kind of what Tony and I were just discussing as far as the effect these rules changes are having, the mindset shift for a lot of coaches to not be in a rush, to not commit, to not lean into that culture and relationship that they all sell by waiting, longer and longer to commit these kids. How do you view just the recruiting process, just as a soccer fan and as a guy that plays and has kids that are coming up through the system, and nieces and nephews that are going through it as well? What's your 2 cents?
I mean, it almost can be summed up by one word: confusion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's as a parent, as a business person that's tied to the game, you want to see a process that someone can do this, and this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. When you reduce the player roster, to me, that pushes some kids even farther away from their goal, right? Because if one school can have 35, I'm just throwing out a number, and now it's 28, that's 7 kids that are going to go to the next school where your kid may have been going.
Trickle down effect,
right? And then does that make sense? So
and the other part of that, though, is a lot of people that are listening that might be new to this landscape. When we talk about rosters, that's just how many people they can, quote, legally have on their team on a roster.
Right.
But the scholarship numbers, they could be 0. For example, in the case of Division III schools, they could be low single digits in the case of some really large Division I schools that we know of, and I won't name names. It could be 28, which is the same, ACC schools. There's a few that have 28, right? So then there's that. Then you have to navigate, okay, who's got the money? Again, going back to that whole ROI expectation.
Right. Well, on top of that, I think you have some parents, there's an ROI financially, but they also want the emotion. They want their kid to play.
Yeah.
Right. So some parents look at me like, what's the point if my kid goes to school there and he's the 26th player? He'll never see the field.
Yeah. Walk us through that process, Tony, for you. Let's say prospect kid, let's put it in realistic terms. Let's say it's post-sophomore year, junior year, June 15th's already passed. They're a quality kid. They send you film. You like the film. You maybe your brain immediately is like, you know what, this isn't top 25 blue chip, but this is a D1 player. Where do you start with the conversation with a new client to try to determine what Greg just alluded to, the difference between ROI from a scholarship standpoint and ROI from an experience to play culture standpoint?
Mm-hmm. First, just touching on the pathways, none of it is public knowledge, right? Who has what scholarship? You don't just go online and say, well, this school has 28, this school has 14. It's like stuff you wouldn't know unless you're kind of in the inside of it. You don't know who has NIL money, who doesn't, who opted in, who hasn't. It's like there's so many stuff that it's just not public, so it makes it even more confusing, as you said. So, but yeah, overall, basically new client, we kind of walk through what is it that you want? What do you want your 4 years to look like? Is it a specific major you want to study? Is it we want our cost to be under 10,000? Is it we want to play as a freshman? Because those are 3 different angles you would take that.
How often is when the question comes across what are you wanting, right? And I'm just saying this generically and simplistically. Mm-hmm. When you say, hey kid, what do you want? How often are you hearing, oh, I want to be a pro?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's most kids, right? And you respect it because I was that same kid, and but I think the good part is there's pros that come out of every different angle, right? There's homegrown kids. There's kids that play 4 years of college at a big school. There's guys that start off at a D2 and then go to D1. I mean, I think it's pretty cool that you can have these different pathways. I mean, one of our best clients was a kid who started at NAI, Central Methodist University in Missouri. I didn't even know that was a
right.
school, and I'm from Missouri. And he was NAI, he was stud defender there, won the national championship NAI level, played at FIU for 2 years, top 10 Division I. That was a guy out of high school. He didn't have that many legitimate looks at that level, and he went on to he was all region at FIU. I mean, at that point, you're highest level. So just being able to manage that, most kids, I mean, nowadays we get requests all the time from coaches at the highest level. Yes, there's always a place for kids out of high school. I think there always will be a place, but as many guys that they can get that can impact right away. And sometimes that is a D2 transfer, a D3 All-American, and so guys that want to go pro, that doesn't necessarily mean you start off at Clemson, right? That could mean you start off at that NAI that gave you a chance.
Go get your minutes.
Go do well, and then who wouldn't want a 20-year-old who's lived away from home, has college film, has college credits, has stats. Maybe they've proven that they can play, against other coaches. Respect any college level, Division I through junior college is 20 to 25
Tony, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So over the years, I've dealt with this a little bit, where some players who aren't lucky to be at a national tournament level for NAIA have a lot of difficulty cracking into the NCAA. Because as we know, the NCAA transfer portal is for NCAA student athletes. So NAIA student athletes can't get into that portal. What's your advice to parents who, okay, I can either go D2, but my kid won't take it, or D3, my kid won't take it, but he can go to NAIA and play? Does that make sense? Like some of these parents are like, okay, my kid's going to go play at NAIA, and then he'll just hit the portal, or she will hit the portal. And I'm like, well, the portal isn't for your kid because you're NAIA. Mm-hmm. Does the question in the context make sense?
Portal, in portal, specific terms is NCAA is legitimate portal that coaches, log into. But I mean, whether junior college, NAI coaches, I mean, if you, have, maybe it's not the portal if you're NAI, but maybe it's a permission to contact from your AD at your NAI. As long as you're, able to talk to coaches will look at you. So, I mean, I'm living in Tampa now. I go to every USF game, right? And their best player is an NAIA, winger. It was All-American, 2-time All-American, and having a good relationship with their coach. I mean, he was tracking him and having
Do you think that this kind of the flood of quality players that are everywhere? Because there's only so many kids that are quote. MLS Next Academy, homegrown pathway or whatever. There's so many layers in which there's talent that is missed, or that is a profile player, right? We talked about this earlier, that maybe, that particular profile is doing really, really well at ECNL level or in the college game at NAIA or D3. Do you think, or are you hearing that the more of the established D2, D1 coaches in particular, are they really integrating more of a recruiting process? Because, again, I want to go back 15 years. To think that colleges were strategically recruiting other colleges, of course they were, but it could not have been at the level that it is today because of the portal window. Are you seeing that as another reason why the commitment process is getting later and later for high school players?
No, exactly like we were talking about the trickle. There's a trickle down effect, right? Like 28 roster doesn't just mean that it affects that one school. Now, if you're the 29th guy that probably could have played at that school 3 years ago, well, now you're going to that lower D1 maybe, and then that lower D1, their 29th player is what? Is he a top D2 now? So it affects everywhere. But yeah, overall, like for example, like junior college nationals, I go there every year. It's been in Wichita. It's going to be in Florida this year, which would be nice for me. But because we have, some really good players every year, we get to good junior colleges for whatever reason, grades or financial. It could be anything.
St. Louis knows all about that.
Yeah.
Again, go back to the 70s, 80s night.
But you go because
up north.
We've been to MLS Next events, and you see all the logos. It's pretty cool. But you go to these junior colleges, it's the same thing. Every top coach and they're getting guys, impact guys right away. So you can imagine if you're a senior in high school, when November comes, these coaches are looking at junior college 2-year guys, a little bit older, a little bit more experienced. So, I think that's another layer of pushing it back. Why commit a kid in high school right now when you can, again, if you have 28 players, you can only fit 28 guys in. You're trying to get the best 28 that can help you right away. You kind of get, why they want to have those at their disposal.
Can I throw another question out?
Yeah, man. So that co-guest
I get
moniker,
it.
You got it.
Thank you. Well, the conversations I'm having with some people across the country is when you talk about, they got to make an impact right away. Mm-hmm. And you've already alluded to the older player. And you look at where College Cup was last year. I know you're younger than us, but in my lifetime, I would never have thought Vermont would play Marshall in the final.
Crazy, right?
Right? And you look at that, and there's some joking about the fact that there were, 2 Americans on the field, goaltender and the ref. How do you deal?
The ball boy every now and then.
Right. He wasn't technically on the field. He's off. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, he got yelled at.
My point in
what
this,
are you doing here?
My point is, like, you've got the change in roster size. You've got coaches that, rightfully so, they've got to put the best team on the field because their job is based on results. Mm-hmm. So to your point, they need to make an impact right now. So now I've got families asking me, like, well, do I put my 18-year-old in a D1 program? He's going to play against 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds who played professionally in Europe. Mm-hmm. And what was it, 2 weeks ago? Ohio State rolled out a guy who played for Newcastle.
And Champions League.
Yeah, and sat on the bench against PSG. Yeah. How do you, it might be fresh, it might be new, and it's unfair because I'm just popping this question, but how do you deal with that on top of the NCAA stuff, right? Like, you got a family, well, do I even go to this school because he's never going to play?
Oh, I know. I was GA Cup when we met there, and it was funny. I was talking to one Division I coach, and he because he was watching, I think it was maybe Sporting Kansas City, I think it was, and I think there was 4 homegrown players that were down and playing for the weekend, and they were just saying basically it's almost like it's harder to sign a Division I tops at a top school than it is sometimes to sign a pro deal. Sometimes these teams throw around these 2-team deals because if it sticks, great. If it doesn't, they're washing their hands clean and getting another 17-year-old kid.
Yeah,
so,
in the meantime, that kid loses all their eligibility.
Yeah.
And it's not a
Can you guys,
ton of money.
Just for some listeners who might not know, can you elaborate on a 2-team deal? You've said it a couple of times. Just
right. So, sometimes, we get a homegrown deal it's a first-team deal, right, where it's an MLS contract, or you can sign a, second-team deal, which is there's really no guarantee that you're ever going to make an appearance for the first team, right? You're kind of playing Next Pro, right? MLS Next Pro.
But the simplicity is it's a contract and you're receiving money,
right? And then,
to play.
And that's the thing. College soccer, though, sometimes it's hard for these the coaches are saying, well, that's an 18-year-old kid. How does he, benefit, or how does he impact right away at our level? Which is, MLS Next Pro is one thing. It's a lot of other 18, 19-year-old kids. College soccer is, like you said, 25-year-old. It's grad students. It's guys coming from Europe. So it is a, it's a thing you got to navigate. It's what is the best pathway if you're 18? It might not be,
Yeah, sorry. Well, what I was going to say along the lines, let me just add to that, because some of the conversations that we've had offline with a number of Division I coaches is, of course, they're still going to look at these MLS academies, specifically the MLS affiliate academies, Chicago Fire, St. Louis City, Sporting KC, etc. But given the experience that they've had, they are sometimes leery about those teams in particular because they never know which kid is going to be kind of all of a sudden in their homegrown pipe. So the kind of the drive or desire to look at these elite academies where you don't have homegrown pathways, i.e. a Scott Gallagher, a Chicago Sockers, Strikers, Delco, those teams, it's almost as if like none of them would say it definitively, but they alluded to they like to recruit those teams because the academies have that question mark always looming over the top. Because if the kid is really standing out, to Tony's point, they come train with 2, and then the kid is slow to react, or might not go on a visit, or might not commit, So there's a lot of that going on too. But I think the moral of the story, as I see it, look, if you're a good player and you've got good grades, because that's the other thing we haven't talked about, like the importance of anymore, we're going through it right now with my son. The grades are opening a lot of doors, and that matters. So if you can put those two things together and you just have a work ethic as an American kid, because there's so many American parents are like, well, look at this Vermont Marshall game. My kid's never making the field over these German kids. Well, that's technically not true, right? Brings me to a question. I want to shift kind of the direction that we're going here, and I'll put it more into your world, Greg. As you work with the agents that are out there really doing the due diligence, looking for the talent, looking to sign as the sports agent, as you're partnering with them and you're prospecting with them, how has the this lower Mendoza line of younger and younger kids kind of avoiding college and moving through these homegrown pipes, because we were joking offline about the whole Freddie Adu effect. There's a whole lot of like next best things over the last few years that are now like, who? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
How are you guys from a professional agency standpoint? What are you seeing as far as who's looking where?
Let me see if I can answer that question in a roundabout way.
I prefer you lie if it's good for ratings, but
well, I can do that. I can embellish. You just ask my wife. No problem. I've seen it over the last decade almost go where the agents and the scouts almost become psychologists, because they're looking for the player who wants it badly. The kid who sits there and tells his parents, I don't want to go to school. I want to go to training. The kid who wakes up and goes for a run, goes to see a trainer, goes to training, and then does a one-on-one session all in the same day.
Yep.
And then wants to rinse and repeat it. Right? I'm not saying like don't go to school, don't get your education, but there are kids out there and they're 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000.
Well, from an agency standpoint, that's a little bit of the it factor.
But my point is, like, the agents are asking the question.
Yeah.
Hey, I can look at a profile. I can watch him on film with Huddle and VO, and then I can come see him at a GA Cup or whatever it might be. And by the way, the one thing I'll be remiss to say is we're talking about the men's side a lot. There's a whole women's side that's blowing up on the same prospect. But you have girls and boys that have all the attributes. They want to kind of do it, but there's difference. When an agent looks at someone and says, do you want this? And some kids shrug their shoulders. Like when I was first starting in soccer in the mid to late 90s, like Frankie Haydick was out there. And Frankie Haydick, no one thought he would ever do what he did.
Who has the greatest Twitter rant in the last year? Did you see that one the other day?
I'm not.
Oh, my God. If you're listening and you haven't seen it, go Frankie Haydick, U.S. soccer rant. Just Google that.
Right.
Brilliant.
Well, look, my point is, like, so I always joke over the years, even with some of my clients, about the California attitude. Like, yeah, man, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. Now, agents, financial advisors in my world, coaches, they're like, do you want this? And the kid that immediately says yes, and they list the reasons, are the kids they want to sign.
You got to see that probably in a very similar format, in dealing with these high school age kids. How much does that kind of psychological analysis, when it comes to their drive or determination or their work ethic that is above and beyond kind of soccer skills, what is the process at prospect to player? How do you add that to your metrics, or do you?
Yeah, even the words is one thing. They could say they want it, and they hear one no, and then they didn't really want it because then they give up, or they one team didn't like them. If you hear one no for soccer, especially, it's a game of opinions. You're probably not going to go far. There's one in millions that are propped up and make it at 18, but most guys, that's not their route. It's a game of opinion. I always say it's different than football, basketball. You go to a basketball game and the guys 6'6" can jump and dunk. Everybody knows that's a good basketball player. I think soccer is. I always say it's very, it's a game of opinions. It's subjective. So that's the big thing for us is there's so many, you always say the Delta. The Delta's not as big for, ECNL, MLS now. There's a lot of kids are comparable, but which kid can hear no? Which kid can, keep going, hear no multiple times and find that right fit? That was my story. I heard so many no's, but you get that one yes, now you're playing college. Now you're playing, in a good level of Europe, right? Whatever it is. But I think that's a big thing because, where can you go? Like the kid at FIU, he heard no and he took his chance, which was a yes, and then it turned to, he went to a higher level than anybody, he would have thought, right? So it's, who's in it for the long haul? I think that's maybe what you're getting at is, who doesn't just say they want to do it, and if it doesn't work out at 18, then they're done. California mentality maybe, but yeah, it's kids that want. Who wants it for the long haul? Who could be told no? Who can start at a lower level, prove themselves, move higher? So yeah, I think.
Let me make a point of clarification. Like the mentality thing's always been there. My point is, over the last decade, it's 100% come out more.
Well, you're also it goes to the fundamental point of my question was in regards to the lower and lower ages of that target market. Because 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there were high school kids that were standing out, that were kind of living in the U.S. camps, right? That were part of that incubator, right?
Right.
But now, every MLS academy has the next best 15-year-old or the next best 16-year-old.
I mean, to your point, that's exactly right. Like, when I would grab coffee or meet somebody at the MLS draft, whatever, they're talking about at least an 18-year-old, an adult by legal standards. And now you got guys like, hey, man, can I meet you tomorrow? I got to go talk to a parent of a 14-year-old.
Nice.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're getting that. You've already come down to the 13, 14 years old.
Okay, so in order for that to be real and happening in real time, that brings me to the next thing I want to talk to you guys about, and that's money. And what I mean by that is the only way it makes sense to start to recruit or sign or talk to, a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old would mean that there is money on the table that an institution, a team, an agency is willing to burn, right, to take the chance on that.
Right.
Right. So the piles have to be bigger. And where I want to go with this is what the piles look like today, and connecting the dots between scholarships, the college landscape, because now it's not just scholarships, and even in the agency world, it's not just a team contract. But we have NIL, and we have a lot of other factors. You have social media. They can be if they've got a big enough social media account, you can monetize that, right? So let's start with Tony, you, and then we'll work up through age and level. But above and beyond just the typical, let's just say 9.9 scholarships, which is what most of us are used to hearing and knowing.
Right.
What are you seeing as far as the schools and the cash that's available? What's working and what's playing out on the ground today?
Yeah, I always say 9.9. I always say there's three buckets that coaches kind of way they're spending that. It might be 20. Let's just say it's limited money, right? It's limited money that they're spending. There's kind of three buckets. I always say is one. The first one is they're returning guys that have gone in, done well, know the standard of maybe started a bunch of games, whatever, and now they're a sophomore, now they're a junior, now they're in their grad year, rewarding those guys that have maybe come in on less money and
scale them up,
right? So that's kind of the first, I think, bucket I see. Second one then is older guys, experienced guys, whether it's an older guy maybe in a gap year. It could be an American guy in a gap year. It could be a guy who's 21 and played professionally in Europe or South America, right? A little bit older, more experienced, impact, or a transfer, a guy that proven it, at some level of college and coming in. That's kind of the second bucket. And then the third one is whatever's kind of left over is guys, maybe younger guys coming out of high school. And I always say, especially if we just talk about Division I, it's hard enough now just to get a Division I roster spot, to ask for money. It can be even tougher, right? So I always say, take your chance, and then you can, as you said, scale up. That's where a lot of coaches are.
Are you seeing a more strategic use or strategy in regards to academic money, maybe? And then we've mentioned it a couple times. Are you starting to see NIL percolate into the conversation? Maybe it's some of the older blue blood schools, or maybe it's a smaller school that just has an incredibly wealthy donor.
Right.
Are you seeing NIL at this point in some of your conversations?
Yeah, we just signed our first client with NIL deal and revenue sharing, and it's once you're kind of playing in that world, you see different sides, you see different offers. You get one NIL offer, well, you can kind of, there's other offers out there. So.
Okay, so let me 101 this thing. Mm-hmm. When you say an NIL offer, you don't name the kid, don't name the school, but what is an NIL offer for a college soccer player?
Yeah, so it's not football, basketball. That's for sure. It's not the
so,
millions.
So it doesn't come with the Dodge Challenger.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was the Michigan quarterback, like a 4-year deal, $10 million? Oh
my God.
That's not college soccer, but it's for this specific example, it was a full scholarship. Everything was covered, and then on top of that was that's the difference. It comes some NIL, some is like revenue sharing, but yeah, it's money in your pocket essentially to go and to play soccer at the school. So it's not every school that does it, but yeah, some of the top schools.
So let me transfer the question to you, Greg, because obviously now if collegiate athletes are able to generate multi-million-dollar contracts through NIL, specifically on the college football side and basketball, how are you approaching it as kind of a traditional pro agent, where you got to wait till they're done with all that so that you can execute a pro contract with a pro team, but now there's money on the table for 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. Are you looking at it? How do you view it? And give me, what's your take on NIL as it affects your industry?
I mean, as it affects our industry, we're almost right there in lockstep with the agent where we start recruiting at a younger age.
Yeah.
We take it personally in the way that we go at it strategically. We do it on what we would call a pro bono basis. Like, how do we just educate the family? How do we educate the kid on what this means? And without knowing too much of what Tony just talked about, NIL income is 1099 based, which for people that might be listening, that's an independent contractor.
Yeah.
So that they're responsible for their own income tax, right? And so you're trying to look at a teenager, or depending on the seniority of the kid, maybe it's a 20, 21-year-old, but I don't know if it's $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, or whatever the number might be. They got to pay tax on that. Too many kids see the money in their bank account and they want to go spend it. And that's a major pitfall, right? If you spend all the money you earned, you don't have money to pay the tax man. Fair enough?
Who's the tax man?
I'm not biting this time. I've been on this show before. A bit. So my point
I do not know this guy.
So from my standpoint, like, we have to go at a player or a family at a younger age to help educate them and all the things around it before you even get to what I fundamentally do, which is an investment advisor. Let's invest the money and have it grow instead of spend it on a car or jewelry or whatever campaign you need to do from a marketing standpoint. Some of these guys, you got to know that you're blessed with the opportunity. If you do it right, you can get another NIL deal, or you enhance the current one that you have.
Yeah.
Right? So not only do we educate on the finance side, we actually find ourselves like, can I bring in a PR person that I'm connected to focus on what you're putting out there social media wise?
Add new deals.
Right? Like, if you're the guy or gal that's out there partying and doing what most people do at 17, 18, 19-year-olds, like here I am on the weekend, like, that's not going to help your profile, right? Believe it or not, it has an indirect impact on how much money they can make, which is where I come in when they make that money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we want to obviously invest their money, but we want to make sure they avoid pitfalls. Don't overspend. Make sure you pay attention to taxes, and then pay attention to what your profile looks like out there. Use your agent, lean on your coach, do the right thing so that if it's a $5,000 deal, maybe next year it's $15,000. Maybe you can go to your coach after a while and be like, hey, man, or I'm the voice or the face of this this college. Like, can I get bonuses based upon what we do or how to use my face?
Yep.
And we have clients that actually will go ask that. Don't get me wrong. There's, 28 guys in a locker room? On an NIL side, there's probably 3 or 4 that the university goes to and says, we need your face. We need you to show up at a car wash. We need to show you up at a car dealership or the local grocery store, or they need to be on something like that.
Go eat burritos as big as your head at the Taco Joe around
That's
the corner.
what I'm talking
from
about.
the quad.
That's correct.
I could have done that.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, it's a new landscape, right? This is uncharted waters, or whatever the analogy is. But I think the point is, where I'm trying to go with this is, a lot of the recruiting process in the college pathway for so many families just seems daunting. They're afraid of it. I mean, just call a spade a spade.
Yeah,
they're afraid of it. And then they look at the expense, they look at the rosters, they see, there's only 9 scholarships, and then they see all these foreign players and all these things. But it's almost as if the market is also presenting new opportunities or new strategies, because that's kind of that's how I view what you do, Tony. Because obviously I see all your posts. We have a working relationship. You kind of you tend to that California mentality. You're not fighting the wave. You're just riding along the break right now, and and keeping up with what's going on. Whether it's the division level, the names of the schools. It's not like Duke or bust in your world. And then kind of folding it in. Here's the question that I want to ask, and that is, it's an advice question. Talk to the family, talk to the kid that is that, rising or that competitive sophomore, thinks they want to play college soccer, or maybe that junior that's like, I'm having a really good year, I think I can go on to the next level, and they decide they want to do it, but they feel like they need some help. Talk about, what do you want to see? What are the things that they should be doing that only they can do, not you or other agents with a Rolodex, because phone calls are, invaluable. But what do you like to see these individuals doing as they enter into the process?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is get an ESPN Plus subscription. Watch some of these games,
Oh my God, yeah.
It's because
it's legit.
Yeah,
it's legit. I've talked to kids like they don't even watch the game. They don't watch the games that they play.
And they tell me they want to play at the school, and they don't even know their last game that they play.
They don't know the coach's name,
right? So, but I think you watch it. One is to see the level, but two is it's almost motivating because take it for what you want. But sometimes the starting 11, it's like 8 of them are transfers, and it was like a D2 kid, a D1, lower school, went to a higher school. It's a JUCO kid. Sometimes you take your chance. I think it's like you said. Sometimes families can get discouraged, but I think I try to spin in the other light as, yes, there's a roster cap. There's physically a less, whereas you could have 35 maybe 2 years ago. Now there's 28. That's true. There's what is that? 7 guys that maybe or that's pure math and numbers, but I kind of spin the other way is now go where you're wanted. It might be Division I, it might not be, but go be the best player you can be. If you believe you're a pro or a Division I player, you should, it's maybe not always that easy, but you should go to a D2, start a lot of games, be an all-conference guy. And again, what Division I coach wouldn't want an all-conference Division II player, and that's where you see sometimes these ESPN Plus, the streams, they're good streams, and sometimes they announce the 11, and it's, sometimes it's internationals. The biggest thing I peel back is a lot of our transfers, a lot of our guys that have taken their chance, and that's where we tell a lot of our guys, American, we work with internationals as well, is sometimes it's just about going where you're valued and wanted, and that could be Division I right away, and that's great. We have, as you said, Grady, we have guys every year, but sometimes it is, and that's why I think, watch the games, see what the landscape is, because sometimes, you speak to families, and you can just tell from the first conversation they don't really know, no shame to them, they don't really know the landscape.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
Dude, 100%. But one point that you just brought up that I would remiss not to say it, like, part of my conversations with families is they need to get over the fact that you're talking about a career where your kid might not go to the same institution for 4 years.
Right.
Like families, mom, dad are like, okay, my kid's going to go to X school, and that's where they're going to graduate from. Mm-hmm. If you're truly following a path, if you go to high D1 and you're starting, you're probably staying there, right? Mm-hmm. But now what I'm seeing with NIL and the shrinking of the rosters and MLS Next 2 and the different pathways is that kids are going to play at least 2, if not 3 different schools before they get done. And it takes a while for the parents to wrap their head around that.
Yeah, because again, this goes back to, are you having the conversation, mom and dad, with your child, asking the questions such as, do you want this, along the lines of what you were talking about, Greg, earlier, like, is this all you care about? That's one thing. But if they answer in a way in which, well, look, I want it, it's not all I think about, but at the next level, you know what I really want? I want to be a locker room. I want to make friends. I'm cool with not getting minutes, and this is a school, I love the campus, or I have a friend that's on the lacrosse team or whatever. Ask the questions. Like, what do you want your college experience to look like if soccer wasn't on the table, or if soccer didn't exist at all? Like, where would you go, right? Because most of the conversations that I hear from parents within this circle, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, they do not reverse engineer to that point where what is really a good fit. Yeah. Because soccer is just kind of the unless it's the be-all, end-all, and you see the kids doing the work, the extra training, the diet, and keeping the social media clean. I mean, it seems ridiculous to have to say that, but that is a real thing that every one of these coaches are looking at.
And I've seen that across all sports, not just soccer.
Yeah, I don't know. As much as it can be frustrating, I think it's kind of like, look, glass half full, right? Because to your point, Tony, there's options.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, to what you alluded to, if you just want that experience, you want to be able to study abroad in the spring, you want to have, there's experiences out there, but I would just say, and then, maybe it's a good D3, maybe it's a D2, whatever it might be, that's a good experience, but understand when you're going through the process that, sometimes that Division I, there's kids that are looking at it as the fourth school, right? And they're okay going to the JUCO and Kansas, right, and grinding it, being an All-American, then taking a D2. I mean, we have a kid at Virginia Tech. He started off at Central Community College, which is in I think it's in Nebraska. Played 2 years there. You would think he was I think he had 30 goals in 2 years, and then you'd think he'd get his Division I chance from there. Then he had to go to Division II, Concord University, West Virginia. Then he got his chance and he signed to Virginia Tech and. Understand that's the sort of guy you're up against, is a guy that it might be his fourth school or third school, but then he's 21 years old, and just understand you might not get that experience that you want, like the study abroad at that dream school, because just understand that you're competing against other guys.
And that guy's probably hungry as all get
hungry,
out.
Older.
He finally got it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's just understand that's kind of the.
That's who you're competing
against.
That's
what I think. Yeah, ESPN Plus. You'll start to see that a little bit, right?
I'm starting to get a picture of what his girlfriend's complaining about ESPN Plus streaming.
Yeah, well, do you have multiple screens?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it now, right?
You're like the Gordon Gekko of college soccer.
She's
You're
gonna
just
laugh
staring at trading
when
walls.
I play this clip for her. She's gonna be laughing.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I will tell you, if I can bring it back, one of the biggest things I've seen over the last few years is, okay, I talked about the psychology and does a kid want it?
Yeah.
Right? And the kid talk about it. But the other part that I look at is I have parents going, who do I trust to help us navigate this process?
Yeah.
You guys have already talked about DMs from agencies, like my firm does this, our firm does that. And I sit on sidelines at MLS Next games or GA Cup. And is this, hey, Droz, you've been in this business forever. Is this a legit company? Is this a legit company? And I have one parent pull up 5 different companies on Instagram that claim that they can help their kid get to college.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I know one guy in one firm, and I can reach out to him. But you know what I'm saying? There's this proliferation of these companies out there that are, kind of help. I think they're being genuine. They want to help, but there are parents out there that need this help and are demanding the help.
Yeah, there's a spectrum. I mean, this is this is one thing. Like, I will commend you, Tony. Like, I now have seen you go through the process. And honestly, I think the most valuable thing that you do and have done is when you have the conversation with a kid, and you've had this with a few kids, and you ask, where do you want to go? What do you think? Mm-hmm. And they start dropping Duke, North Carolina, Indiana,
Of course, everybody does.
And, and I'll give you credit. You are very, very quick to say, nice dream, but that's probably not happening, right? And then work the process that way. Now, that doesn't mean that they cannot end up there,
right,
along the lines of what you're discussing or describing, right? But I think that's the hardest thing, Greg. How many people do we know that even at the youth level, they're just not realistic about what or where their kids should be and or land?
Correct. You talked about it. You got to reverse engineer.
Right.
Is it okay? Go to IU, great, but you'll never see the field.
Right.
And then you've had, I believe you had Joe Ahern on this.
Yeah,
before.
Joe.
Great guy. I just talked to him 2 weeks ago, and he knows that we're traveling up to Michigan, right, for some games. He's like, you know what? You might want to check out Grand Valley State. No one pays attention to it. It's an unbelievable D2 program. Their campus, their facilities, their program is amazing. And kids from the South won't even think about it because it's Michigan, but it's probably a better program. And the attendance is amazing.
Better golf courses.
Yeah, right. In the summertime. Does that make sense? Like there's kids out there going back to the Vermont Marshall statement. Kids won't think about a D2 school in the North because they want to be somewhere else, right? But it's a tremendous opportunity. Yeah,
I love it. Closing thoughts, like if you had to, ask you for the State of the Union earlier, Tony, like, the things the kids should be watching, college games, etc. Communicating with coaches, that's another part of it. how quick should they reply when the text messages come in? Is it same day, next day? Give a little bit of the etiquette, because there's some kids that are going through the process right now that I know through the parents that they're waiting 48, 72 hours and beyond, on catching up. And is it too much to reach out often?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, these coaches and being in the industry, they have so many players they can choose from now, right? Like, it's so many players, and they're stretched so many different ways. They have connections. They know clubs, and, hey, I got a guy for you. I just see it. They're stretched so many different ways that anytime they reply to me, and that's my whole business, I'm just grateful because I know they have a lot going on. So I try to relay that to my clients is like, if you get any outreach, any text back, a lot of it is, hey, this coach is interested. Here's his number, blah, blah, blah. Connect them. And I would say I kind of like, cheerlead them. Like, it's a big deal to get a reply from a coach, and you should value it. You should, I wouldn't, 72 hours, I think it's got to be same day at least, But I always say, and then because even just the initial text is one thing, it's hard enough to get that. But then it's a long way from that initial to an offer, walking onto campus in August. So I always say, then you got to build off that. You got to keep the momentum rolling. I think that, again, it's watching the games. It's, hey, coach, I watched the game. Maybe it's Saturday they played. Maybe text them just something small Sunday. Liked the game. I liked this is what you did. Congrats. Just being on the forefront. It's how do you there's a bunch of filters coaches are going through. It's how you play. It's how your personality is. It's how can you keep passing those filters. I kind of always say.
Yeah.
And I think communication is a big thing. It's a big deal to get a message from a coach. I always tell anybody we're working with, most kids your age aren't going to get anything. They're not going to get any text. They're not going to get any. That's just reality. As everybody says they want to play, most kids at the youth level, that's why I think the number is like 3% play at any level. Most kids, most of your buddies aren't going to ever get a text from a coach. If you got one, that's a big deal. And I always say just value it and reply back and show enthusiasm. It's a big deal,
I love it. Droz, real quick to you, closing question. If a high school kid, gets a $10 million NIL deal and texts you, how long does it take you to get back to him?
30 seconds.
Yeah.
That long?
Yeah, well, I'm old, man. It takes me a little while to respond. Got to get my glasses on.
You got to pull your glasses off your head and roll it all down and in. Guys, this has been a lot of fun. I mean, that's a lot of subject matter there. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to do the show.
Thank you.
As always, I'll be seeing you around the park. Tampa, man. Tampa Tony.
I'll be back October 4th, SLU Dayton. I have a kid at Dayton. I don't know if you'll be at that game, but
okay.
We have a Felix Boabang we'll be watching. He's a winger out Dayton. Should be a big game.
What's the biggest difference that you see in the Florida kids versus the Midwest St. Louis kids
in terms of like players? Youth
players?
Yeah.
Just descriptor.
Oh man, I don't know.
Are they too finicky, little CONCACAF-y, not enough grit, or do you like the CONCACAF-y style?
Wow, really putting you on a spot, bro.
I know, man.
He's got Midwest roots. He can't sell us out, and he doesn't want to sell them out of his home.
That's good. Let's just.
I'll protect Tony. I got you, Tony.
So you're down there you're the St. Louis pipeline South. All right.
Yeah, best of both worlds.
There we go, man. I love it, man. Well, awesome. Thanks for listening, people. I'll put the links to Prospect Player in the show notes. Go check it out if you're curious as to what Tony's doing. Droz, as always. Pleasure.
Yeah, man.
Lunch soon again, yeah.
Absolutely.
And JB, on the way out here, like, review, follow, share, Soccer Dad Pod. Appreciate all the support. Until next time.